From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, good news for electricity consumers as the PHCN successor companies take over power generation and distribution on Monday. Federal High Court Abuja orders INEC to recognize Professor Adewale Oladipo as the National Secretary of the PDP in place of Olagunsoye Oyinola. West African countries meet in Nigeria to consolidate on common economic tariff across borders. And militants who attacked the Kenyan mall hired a shop, enabling them to stockpile weapons leading up to the siege.
On business news tonight, the Naira strengthens so the Interbank sustains gains against the US dollar, raising hopes of a recuperating local currency.
Our sports news, Warriors reject verdict of NFF's disciplinary committee ordering a replay of abandoned league game with Kwara United in Abuja.
It appears the jinx in the privatization of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria has finally been broken. The federal government is set to hand over the successor companies to the new owners by Monday next week. This was announced by Vice President Namadi Sambo at a meeting on power sector reforms in Abuja, where he also revealed that outstanding payments of pensions and gratuities of workers of the defunct PHCN have been cleared.
Financial experts, top government officials and major players in the power sector at a forum to take stock of achievements, challenges and prospects of the nation's power sector. This is one forum to celebrate the role of commercial banks in the provision of support to the federal government's reform agenda for the power sector. Vice President Namadi Sambo lists some of the challenges that must be tackled to achieve the needed development in the sector, one of which is the handing over of successor companies to investors for better outputs.
The relevant government agencies have since February 2013 signed the transaction documents. The winning bidders have also paid their bids. The stage is now set for the formal handing over of the generation and distribution assets to the GENCOs and DISCOs respectively on Monday, the 30th of September 2013.
The CBN governor highlighted major contributions of commercial banks to the power sector. According to him, over $2 billion have been committed to the federal government's privatization of the sector.
The lending by the banks and the privatization process itself is just a first step. You've put these firms in private hands. Now we need to have investments for ensuring that they grow and they produce to their full capacity and that Nigerians benefit from it.
While a lot has also been done by the government for the provision of over 6 million meters, which is to be installed across the country, the chairman of the technical committee of the National Council on Privatization is of the view that building a synergy between government and members of the private sector is key to achieving more success.
There is a possibility for incremental output of 4,284 megawatts to get them to ramp up to their full potential. At the crude estimate of $1 million per megawatt, this will cost an additional $4.28 billion.
Indeed, the private sector has come under criticism following the privatization of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria. But with this commitment by the federal government to ensure steady power supply, Nigerians look forward to see an improvement in the supply of electricity after the handover of PHCN successor companies to the private sector.
In considering the privatization of the PHCN, the federal government gave as its reason the failure of the management of the electricity sector. The reform process was therefore packaged such that a brand new sector that will provide regular electricity was conceptualized. In this background report, our correspondent Charles Eruka takes a look at the unbundling process of the PHCN.
Of all the challenges of development Nigeria has faced, power supply has ranked as one of the most formidable since April 1972, when the Electricity Company of Nigeria was merged with the Niger Dam Authority, NDA, to become the National Electric Power Authority, NEPA. The problem of epileptic power supply has remained a national burden. Following the return of democratic governance in 1999, after years of successive military rule, President Olusegun Obasanjo's government committed massive funds to turn around the power sector. But like a recurring nightmare, the power problem perhaps grew even worse.
The light is not steady. It's not steady. In a day, I don't see lights up to 6 hours.
Persistent power outages and generally unreliable service compelled the federal government to take radical action. In 2005, the Electric Power Sector Reform Act was enacted, which called for unbundling the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, into a series of 18 successor companies, 6 generation companies, 11 distribution companies, and a national power transmission company.
When you look at, say, generation, we're behind. I mean, there's no way we can say that we are not. Our plan has come to meet certain constraints, like we're talking about gas supply. There are some places where we have gas constraints. And those were, when you make a plan, you say you expect that you are going to deliver if these things are in place.
Several foreign and indigenous companies bidded for the PHCN's successor companies, and 12 out of the 14 preferred bidders have met the federal government's deadline to pay up the balance of 75% of their bid values, having paid an initial 25% by way of commitment to the bids in March this year.
As we inch closer to handing over control of these companies to the private sector, the federal government will take all necessary steps to ensure that the expectations of the Nigerian people in terms of improved service delivery are achieved.
10 distribution companies and 5 generation companies are to take over the successor companies that rose from the unbundling of the defunct PHCN. Charles Aruka, the Channels Television News.